Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this video series where we are doing some practice problems together from chapter 6 where we are dealing with percents. Now in this chapter we see our first example of this thing. They called it in the book a magic triangle. I'm not so sure that it is magical. In fact, I know it's not because magic is not real, but we are able to use this little triangle that we make, and we will see another one later whenever we're dealing with interest. It ends up the kinds of formulas that we have for percent and also for interest and stuff like that, they lend themselves to this kind of a triangle where we're able to use this thing to develop all the different formulas or to remember the different formulas that we're dealing with whenever we have percent. So we call this one over here, the P that's on top is called the portion. That's what the P stands for. But it also could mean part, because we're thinking a lot of times as well that the percent over here, it's kind of like the part to the whole, something like this. And so the base is the one, which is the B obviously, but the base is the same meaning as the whole thing. And then the R over here, of course, means the rate. And so when I say that we're able to use this triangle to make all of the different formulas that we might want to use, what I mean is that if we want to make a formula, for example, to find what the portion is, or in fact, since we basically see it over here, always the rate, by the way, this is the percent. And so if we're wanting to solve for the rate, we kind of want to have this kind of a thing where it goes, the rate is going to be the part to the whole. And so what you do, the way that you use this triangle is that you figure out which one you're looking for. So in this case, we're trying to solve for rate. So you will kind of circle that one or else think of covering that one up, and you see what is left over. Well, you see there's a P on the top and there's a B on the bottom, and so it would go in that same orientation. The rate, we're covering this one up, and we see that it should go the P over the B, like this one, P over B. And then if we are trying to, for example, find just the base, then we would have almost the same sort of a situation. We're covering up the base, or we're circling this one, and then we say that the base is equal to whatever's left over, and so obviously it goes like P over R. And then we will have one more sort of a permutation here where we can do the portion. Say we're trying to find this one, then you would cover this one up, or you'll circle it and see what is left over. The B and the R, but in this case we don't have one over the other, they're right next to each other, and so we would go that the portion is equal to, here it goes, the BR next to each other, which means B times R. So the base times the rate gives us the portion. And we have, in this case, these three formulas all coming from that triangle. And so it's just an easy way to remember them. Here we are going to solve this first problem where we are trying to find what number is 0.4% of 500. And so we have obviously here a percent. It's always the rate if you have a percent. And then what number is 0.4% of 500? You notice we're looking for a piece of 500. We're looking for a corresponding part. And this part is going to consist of 0.4% of the whole, which is supposed to be 500. But it seems like you can normally tell which one is the base because it has this of over here. So sort of the of number of 500, that's going to be the base. And so here 500 is the base. We're looking for the portion because that's really just what's left over. And so here, if you don't like to think of it as portion, rate, and base, you can think of it as, like a percent is the part over the whole, stuff like that. But here, in order to use our triangle, we want to think of it in terms of the portion, the base, and the rate. We will end up using the formula, but I can also normally, without using the triangle, I would think of this one. Whenever you want to find a percent of a number, you just multiply these two. Basically, 0.4% of 500, that should just be 0.4% times 500. And of course, since here we're trying to find the portion, you would notice it was the last formula that we came up with anyways. It goes the base times the rate, and that's kind of what we have here. But of course, if you're going to multiply a percent times a number, this percent, it should not have the percent sign there. It should be in the form of a decimal. And so we would want to convert this to a decimal by moving the decimal place 2 places to the left. So it would go 0.004 times 500. And of course, that is equal to 2. And so 2 happens to be 0.4% of 500. Now we're prompted actually to find the rate. It calls it the rate, but we can always tell, of course, because it's percent. We're looking for the rate whenever, basically here, we can go based on the of number as well. If the word order here is a little bit confusing, blank percent of 50 is 37. So this part of 50 is 37. So 37 is the portion, 50 is the base, and we're looking for the rate. We don't know this one. And so when you're solving for rate, we had this formula that goes the rate is the portion over the base. And so that goes 37 over 50, which 37 over 50, of course, this is 0.74. So we could say 74% because we're just converting, of course, by moving the decimal 2 places to the right. And so we would end up with this one. And then we're going to here have basically an identical question for number 10. And so I'm just going to take a look at number 11 here, where this time we want to solve for the base. And so we've found the portion before, then we've found the rate, and now we want to find the base. And so we had our formula over here for the base. The base goes the portion over the rate. And what is the portion? Here, it has to just be the number because this percent, it's reserved for the rate. So obviously the rate is going to be 150%. And whenever we do this, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and put it right here as a percent, but we would want to convert this as a decimal whenever we actually go for this calculation here. We don't want to divide by 150. We want to divide by 150%, which is a different number. So here, 540 is this percent of some number, so it's some part of this whole number here, which is, and in this case, 540, the portion is going to be more than the base, which this time it makes more sense to think of it as portion and base, because if you think of it as part and whole, it doesn't really make sense that the part should be more than the whole. But here it has to do with this 150%, it's more than 100%. And so 540, we're going to use this one as the portion. We're trying to find the base, and so we want to do 540 divided by 150%, but if we convert this one to a decimal, it should go twice there, the decimal place, so it should be 1.5 instead of 150%. So we're looking for 540 divided by 1.5. And of course, if you either go into your calculator with this one or you solve it by means of some other division like fractions or something, of course this is 360. And so 360 is the base. 540 is 150% of 360. And so that does it for these questions. We will see coming up here the way that we will handle some word problems. But anyways, I hope this video was helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one.